Stocks swing between gains and losses, keeping investors on edge. IT and metals and banks gain, while utilities and autos dip. The Defence Acquisition Committee approves procurement of an additional 4,276 crore rupees worth of missile systems for the Army and Navy, providing a fillip to vendors like Bharat Dynamics. Restocking ahead of the Chinese New Year gives a further fillip to metals, even as a V-shaped recovery buoys sentiment. The optimism boosts metal stocks. And the Auto Expo returns after 3 years with 75 new models set to be unveiled by among 48 participating OEMs. Maruti and Tata Motors are two of the key players in focus. Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the headlines that we have for you at lunch hour. And for the markets, by the way, it has just been all over the place. You know, ever since we started trading, we've seen a very volatile session, multiple dips into the red. And currently as well, we are seeing some cuts. Nothing major. It's a 15-point cut that we are seeing on the Nifty. The mid-cap index has also seen quite a shaky day, and that is currently trading with a cut of around 0.4%. What is doing well is the IT pack, the metals pack, and some of the PSUs. Remember, IT and PSUs also saw pretty significant cuts yesterday, so those ones are back in the green. And metals, on account of the China reopening, really bouncing around. So those ones are, some of the larger names are up for you on your screen, but pretty much the entire space is doing well. On the downside, you have, of course, Bharti Airtel is the top loser. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Reliance is sort of really adding to the pressure. And you have a bunch of the pharma names which are seeing cuts today. So the likes of Cipla, Divi's, all of these seeing some cuts. So that's what's going on with the market action. Extremely volatile day, so we'll keep coming back to this. But to start, let's look at some individual stocks which are in focus today. Bharti Airtel is the first one. The stock is losing in trade after a downgrade from JP Morgan. It's actually the top loser on the Nifty. So Nimesh is here with all of the details. Nimesh?
That's right, and that's the reason why Bharti is the biggest loser today, as JP Morgan has today downgraded the stock to underweight from overweight, and they've sharply cut the target price to 710 versus 860 earlier. Now, three specific reasons why why JP Morgan has downgraded Bharti Airtel today. One, higher than expected capex. Two, delayed price repair. And three, lack of 5G monetization. In fact, JP Morgan believes that Jio's focus on high-end consumers would mean that there is a higher capex for Bharti Airtel to defend the market share, and competitive pricing in 5G would delay the free cash flow and return on invested capital. Now, at the current market price, JP Morgan believes that the stock is baking in a modest FY24 estimated capex, 10% tariff hike, and a continued ROIC expansion. All three looks difficult in the current environment, and hence a big downgrade on Bharti Airtel to underweight from overweight, and they've sharply cut the target price now to 710.
All right, this one actually trading with a cut of nearly 5%. So that is the kind of move that we've seen on Bharti Airtel. One stock which is doing well today is Bharat Dynamics. It's surging after the Defence Acquisition Council has approved acquisition proposals worth 4,276 crores. So Vaishta is joining in to get us the details on this. Vaishta?
Hi, Pavitra. Well, not just Bharat Dynamics, but also other defense stocks are doing well in trade today. This is because, like you mentioned, the Defence Acquisition Council has approved the acceptance of necessity, and this is for 3 capital acquisition proposals summing to approximately 4,300 crores. And the 3 proposals include 2 of the Indian Army and 1 is of the Indian Navy. Now, this includes the procurement of Helena anti-tank guided missiles for launchers and for associated support equipment, which will be integrated to the Advanced Light Helicopter. Also, there is a procurement of IR homing missile system under the design and development by the Defence Research and the Development Organization. So all these new developments are expected to benefit the aerospace and the defence manufacturing industry, which includes players such as Bharat Dynamics. Back to you.
All right, Vaishta, thanks a lot for bringing us all of the details. By the way, I have to point out today that, even though the market is in the red, it is the kind of day where you're still seeing advances outpace declines. So there are a lot of stocks which are moving around, even though, on the surface level, it looks quite flat and even negative at several points during the day. One space which is doing particularly well is the oil marketing companies. Let's talk about that. Sources are telling us that OMCs are hoping for 50,000 crore rupees as cash compensation from the government. This is to make up for losses after fuel prices were frozen. So Sapna is here with all of the exclusive details on this one. Sapna.
Well, industry players have estimated a cash compensation requirement of 50,000 crores from the government, as an immediate measure to help them make up for the losses that they've incurred on petrol and diesel in H1, Q3 also probably, and of course Q4 is ongoing. But 50,000 crores is their rough estimate in terms of the losses that they've incurred in terms of marketing of these products. That's one. The second viewpoint that's coming from OMCs very clearly is the fact that they just only can't manage to keep their head above the water and just be in a survival mode forever. Either the compensation should come through in terms of fiscal support from the government, cash fiscal support from the government, or they should be allowed to raise prices. For example, 2 to 3 rupees, price raise on diesel will help them go a long way. So these are the two demands, key takeaways from our conversations with OMCs at various points in time. This has been an important issue. It has been doing the rounds for quite some time. The government has compensated OMCs to around 22,000 crores for the LPG losses. Will they be willing to do the same for petrol and diesel losses also? That's a bit of a question mark. The matter is not closed yet, and we just have to keep a watch as to how much of this money actually comes through from the government coffers.
All right, Sapna, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on that story. With that, we're going to get into our first short break on the show. But on the other side, demolition of vulnerable houses in Joshimath has begun. So we'll get you a special ground report after this short break. Welcome back. I was telling you we were flipping from green to red all through the morning, and once again the markets are back in the green. So we have moved into the positive territory. Sensex, Nifty, both just a little bit in the green right now, but it is the mid-cap index which is still seeing around 0.25% in terms of a downtick. That's the market action. But moving on to a special report, safe demolition of vulnerable houses has started in Joshimath. This was yesterday. So the state administration has said that initially 200 houses and hotels will be demolished in the region, and meantime evacuation and rehabilitation work will also continue. A total of 678 houses are affected so far. So CNBC-TV18 Santhya Gora travelled to the Sunil village of Joshimath to the first house where the cracks were noticed. Here's a report from that region.
This is the Shaklani family home, a place where generations of the Shaklani family have lived. It has wide cracks in it now, and it's caving in. This is the house from the top of the region where wide cracks were first noticed. All 14 members of the family have shifted to a nearby hotel now, and the Shaklanis can sense that this is the beginning of uncertain times for them.
This is the condition of Shaklani family's house. Now, let's talk to some members of the family to understand that when was the first time they noticed these cracks and what has happened since then. हमसे बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. एक आप मुझे समझा सकें कि पहली बार ये दरारें, छोटी दरारें कब दिखी, फिर बड़ी दरारें कब दिखी और क्या हुआ था, थोड़ा समझा सकते हैं?
मैम पहले तो इस पे हल्की दरारें थी. उस वक्त ये अभी 6 महीने पहले की बात है, सितंबर की बात. उस टाइम हल्की दरारें थी. हमें लग रहा मकान ज़मीन ले रहा है. लेकिन उसके बाद मैम अभी 1 हफ्ते पहले जो हुआ था, 3 तारीख की बात बताई जा रही है, उसमें ये दीवार दिन प्रतिदिन और चौड़ी होती गई. आज एक दीवार पे देखा, कल दूसरी और परसों तीसरी. तो धीरे धीरे करके दीवारों पे दरारें भी पड़ती गई और मकान दरारें चौड़ी भी होती गई.
तो आप लोगों के घर से बड़े या आप लोग कोई सरकार के कहीं किसी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव से मिलने गए, कुछ बातचीत हुई, कुछ सुनवाई हुई?
मैम 6 महीने पहले की जो मैं बात बता रही हूँ, हल्की क्रैक आई थी. उस टाइम पापा ने मेरे पापा गए थे वहाँ नीचे, एप्लीकेशन दी कि हमारे मकानों पे दरारें आ रही है. तो उस टाइम ये कहा गया कि तुम्हारे घर की बुनियाद अच्छी नहीं है, कि तुमने बुनियाद सही से नहीं डाली है. हाँ, उस टाइम ये कहा गया तुम्हारे घर का प्रॉब्लम है, मजाक बनाया गया उस वक्त.
लगभग कितने साउंड सुनाई दे रही थी? कोई
मुझे तो मैं तो सो रहा था, कम हुआ, लेकिन
आवाज ऐसी आ रही थी कि कभी भी गिर जाएगा,
आवाज जैसे नीचे
पत्थरों के बजने की आवाज.
Now, various teams of the union government and state administration visit Shaklani residents on a daily basis. These teams are conducting surveys and trying to establish the causes of this land subsidence, these wide cracks, and this caved-in surface.
आप लोग का फोकस पॉइंट क्या है सर व्हेन यू आर कंडक्टिंग दिस रेकी?
फोकस पॉइंट है ये बेसिकली रिहेबिलिटेशन. 3 पॉइंट्स हैं हमारे मैंडेट में. जो लोग हैं उनके रिहेबिलिटेशन का क्या अरेंजमेंट होगा और अभी इमीडिएट क्या उनकी नीड्स हैं, उनको कैसे एड्रेस किया जाएगा। दूसरा, इसके जो प्रोबेबल कॉजेज़ हैं उसके बारे में हम लोग जानने की कोशिश करेंगे, क्योंकि डिटेल्ड इन्वेस्टिगेशन इन सब में तो टाइम लगेगा। तो प्रोबेबल कॉजेज़ हैं और फर्दर कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन क्या होगा उसके ऊपर हम।
Shaklani family, in the meantime, is waiting for the authorities to walk the talk and help them.
This is one of the rooms of Shaklani family, and this is one of the worst affected house in the region. All 14 members of Shaklani family are shifted to a nearby hotel, but they claim that their rehabilitation is poorly planned, and because of that, despite the dangerous status of their house and the risk involved, they still have to come here multiple times a day.
हमें यहाँ पर खाना बनाने के लिए आना पड़ता है। वहाँ पर खाने बनाने के लिए जगह नहीं है। हालांकि उन्होंने हमको ऐसे बोला है कि वहाँ पर तुमको खाना बना बनाया मिलेगा, पर हमको पापा और मेरे खाते नहीं है, तो इसलिए हमको यहाँ पर बनाने के लिए आना पड़ता है। और हमारे गाय बछड़े हैं जिनसे हमारा रोजगार चलता है, उनके लिए हमको यहाँ पर आना पड़ता है।
तो ये जो अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट के लोग आ रहे हैं, तो ये मतलब कुछ आपको बता रहे हैं कॉम्पनसेशन वगैरह का कुछ, कि नेक्स्ट या फिर नेक्स्ट आपको क्या करना है, ऐसा कुछ समझा रहे हैं?
उन्होंने हमको सिर्फ इतना ही बोला अभी तक, घर खाली कर दो, अपना सामान। अब हम अपना सामान कहाँ रखें, हमको पता है हमने कहाँ रखना है। उन्होंने बोला है कि तुमको कोई टीन सेट ऐसे बना करके देंगे, वहाँ पर तुम अपना सामान रख लो। देखते हैं बनाते हैं नहीं बनाते।
But the local administration claims that the affected families are properly rehabilitated.
We are working on the rehabilitation plan.
Correct.
See, the temporary rehabilitation plan as well as the permanent rehabilitation is under process, and you will be knowing in some time. Senior officers are working, both state government as well as central government.
While ministers and government officers visit the Shaklani family home and many others like it, they provide assurances. But like the Shaklanis, thousands of residents of Joshimath are facing an uncertain future.
All right, very tough situation there in Joshimath, but we trust Santya to keep bringing us all of those stories and updates from the ground, and we will bring them to you as well. But with that, let's move on and talk about the two-day Global Investor Summit, which is underway in Madhya Pradesh. Several Indian dignitaries are taking part in the event. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the summit virtually, and during his address, he reiterated the government's focus on the Atmanirbharta scheme. He said that India is putting its faith in the private sector and stressed on the various reforms that the government has implemented in order to attract investors to India. So let's listen in to some of those comments.
Today, India is receiving record-breaking FDI. Even during a once-in-a-century crisis, we took the path of reforms. India has been on the path of reform, transform, and perform since 2014. The Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan has imparted greater momentum to it. As a result, India has become an attractive destination for investment.
All right, more from the summit. We also had Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, addressing it. So let's listen in to what he had to say as well.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत के लिए मुझे बनाना है आत्मनिर्भर मध्य प्रदेश आपके साथ मिलके। उसका रोड मैप तैयार है, लेकिन मैं उस पर बात करूं उसके पहले आज हम सबकी प्रेरणा और प्रकाश स्तंभ केवल भारत के नहीं, ग्लोबल लीडर जिन्होंने दुनिया को एक नई दिशा दिखाई है, और मैं आज विश्वास के साथ कह रहा हूं इस मंच पर खड़े होकर, भौतिकता की अग्नि में दग्ध विश्व मानवता को शाश्वत शांति के पथ का दिग्दर्शन कल भारत ही कराएगा, ये देश ही कराएगा।
All right, important comments there coming through on what the government is really doing in order to attract investment into the country. But with that, we're going to get into a short break for now. On the other side, Maruti unveils its first electric SUV, the EVX, which is set to be launched in 2025. Excerpts from our conversation with the management on the other side. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch, and let's go across to the Auto Expo where my colleague Parikshit spoke to Shashank Srivastava, Senior Executive Officer of Sales and Marketing, as well as CV Raman, the Chief Technology Officer at Maruti Suzuki, after they unveiled their EV concept, the EVX. He began by asking them why the company decided to launch an electric SUV and not go for a mass market entry car. So let's listen in to that chat.
First of all, we must understand that electric vehicles still a developing and evolving field. Surely it has got great potential considering the emission norms which are going to come and which are already in place set by the government, as also general concern for environment and sustainability. The adoption rate of EVs is, the consensus is that it will be different for different category of vehicles. Like two-wheeler and three-wheeler, it will be before four-wheelers. The four-wheeler, for the four-wheelers, it will also be the TCO parity, which is the basis of calculation consumer makes for making choices, is more in favor of larger vehicles and smaller vehicles.
One can say the cost viability is greater in having an electric SUV right now, and you can expect some greater volumes as well?
Yes, so I would say larger vehicles. And SUV, of course, is because the segment is really doing well, and our projection is that the segment will continue to do well. Like, for example, in December, it touched 45% of the market. Overall, of course, it's still 42%, but the growth seems to be great going for SUV, and therefore for larger vehicles, SUV is obviously an obvious choice for getting into these. But one thing I must add, that it is also dependent on the usage of the vehicle. For example, in the smaller cars, you could see the fleet adoption being much faster, because it is not just the type of car which matters, but also the usage that you put to. So there is a consensus that maybe fleet and such usage will probably see a faster adoption than personal.
All right, Mr. Raman, as we move, and if you could tell us about the vehicle as well, this is a completely new ground-up vehicle. We get a sense that there is some amount of inspiration from the Grand Vitara. Are we right? This is more than 4 meters. Give us a sense about the inspiration behind the design.
So as Shashank-san was explaining about the need and the growth in the SUV market. And SUV market is not just for India, but globally SUVs are growing. And this is a global unveil. The concept EVX is for the global market. And so therefore, SUV as a theme has been kind of established in a way that that's where the growth is going to be. And so the concept is based on a SUV theme. It's a versatile, emotional, versatile cruiser. That's what EVX stands for. And what does a true SUV stand out for? One is high seating, a longer wheelbase, and very wide proportion, a very strong shoulder, upright hood, and upright seating. All of this is what represents a SUV. And now when you talk about SUV, and that too in an EV, we have to start, as we were talking about, a born electric. So from a platform perspective, all new platform is being developed. And so based on that, and this has got a 60 kilowatt battery, it has a 550 kilometers of range. And so that's based on our study of the market, we feel that that's a start point from where the easy adoption in this segment is possible. So, and of course, we will have a lot of effort towards localization of this whole thing, including the battery and manufacturing.
What will be the extent of localization, sir? As we move forward, as you tell us more about this vehicle, what will be the extent of localization? Will it be 100% manufactured in India?
Yeah, of course. So we are doing about 10,000 crore investment in Gujarat, which was announced a couple of months back. And we are going to localize the batteries. By 2025, we will have all of that in place, so that we are able to launch that, for the market.
All right. So coming to the tough question about cost, when we see such vehicles unveiled, when we have a timeline, there is an obvious question on the cost, Mr. Srivastava. So as Mr. Raman was saying that this will be heavily localized, 100% manufactured in India. How will you keep the price competitive? Today in the market, you have 10 lakh EVs, you have 15 lakh EVs, and you have EVs in the range of 20 to 25 lakhs. Which bracket would this fall in?
So I think it's too early to talk about price. because it will all depend on the extent of localization as well. And I must say that one of the big factors inhibiting the larger adoption of EVs across the world and also in India is the cost of acquisition. And in battery cost is obviously a very important cost. In fact, its estimates are it will be close to 50% of the total cost of EVs. And therefore, it's very important to get the battery cost down.
All right, that is the management of Maruti talking about their new SUV, the electric SUV, which they've just unveiled at the Auto Expo, and the potential that they see from electric vehicles. But with that, I also have to bring you a quick update on a tragic incident that we saw yesterday. 5 officials of the NCC company and 2 from Bangalore Metro Rail officials from these have been arrested in connection with the collapse of an under-construction metro pillar in the city. Remember, the pillar collapse resulted in a woman and her 2-year-old toddler losing their lives after, a structure from the construction site fell on them. So that is an update on this extremely tragic incident which came through yesterday. But with that, we're going to wind down on this edition of Business Lunch. Thank you very much for tuning in. Midcap Radar comes up next.